Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So, it now occurs to me that in my exuberance to utilize this new feature StreamYard's given where it automatically runs an intro video, I grabbed the wrong pre-roll video that has our old intro music on it. So I have homework to do this weekend to find the correct intro video and then delete everything off this freaking hard drive that is not current, because I've done this a couple of times.
I mean, just archive it, like intro video 1.0, intro video 2.0.
Yeah, I got so much crap for using that intro music for all those years ago. Like, nobody liked it. I was the only person that thought it was a good idea, apparently.
Oh, I liked it.
Okay, well, then maybe we'll resurrect that, and I'll just piss off Uncle Randy, because he was the most vocal.
Punish Randy at my request.
What was that, Andrew?
What did Randy say?
The intro music that ran on the pre-roll. That was our old intro music, and he hated it.
Oh.
Anyway, that's when I went for the intro music that we use now, which is, more like snare drum and, all that. But anyway, so we're all back in the studio. Last weekend, we were supposed to record some content for Prepper Camp, but that thing happened. That big, ugly, horrible thing happened that has blacked out like major parts of 4 states. So,
I mean, all you keep hearing is about is Asheville, because it seemed like that got annihilated by 4 dudes in a couch.
Dude, at Asheville, look, there's not a single place. There are not many places in that area, which I mean, like, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. The Florida Panhandle got nuked again. So, I mean, the situation over there is diabolically bad. There are dozens of rescue organizations trying their best to get aid into the area, and frankly, there's a lot of people over there that are suffering right now. So I would just say, as I have said to the audience, in a couple of posts here and there recently, like, if you can do anything to lend assistance, please consider it, because there are a lot of people in need. But in light of that, we didn't think it was appropriate to do a hurricane prepping episode for obvious reasons. Poor taste and all that.
Yep.
But we'll do one of those in the future.
Yeah, and we'll probably talk about this hurricane and its effects specifically in detail once we have more information. Because right now, there are still, probably several hundred communities, would you say, Phil, that we don't have full information about yet?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get full information for a while because of, just what I've heard. On top of the immediate damage that was done, there were dams that burst, which have destroyed everything downstream of them. There are mudslides that happen that have buried whole towns under 5 to 6 feet of just mud, and I don't think those towns can be recovered. And then you have major damage to infrastructure. Like, I know that there was one town in North Carolina or Tennessee, I don't recall where, but the public officials had come back into the town when the floodwaters receded and came to the realization that their wastewater treatment facility that services that entire county
it's gone.
It cannot be fixed. The damage zone was too severe. It cannot be repaired. So before these people have clean drinking water in that county, an entire county, they're going to have to bulldoze what used to be there and build it from scratch. Which is
that is a years-long project.
Yeah.
Several years at minimum.
So, I don't know. I mean, this, one of the things that we do on the show is a lot of times is we preach from that gospel of preparedness. We preach from the gospel of be prepared and, have things put back and stock your pantry and yeah. But in this kind of a situation, I don't know what you tell people other than get the hell out of this thing's way and don't be there when it happens. Because, it's like my wife said over the weekend when we were we went on a family camping trip instead of going to Saluda, North Carolina to go to prepper camp, and we were watching the news. Hey, Raggle Fraggle, I see you there. I don't want to ignore you. And the my sister and my brother-in-law were camping with us, and my sister-in-law very poignantly said, "What do you do to prep for something like this other than get out of its way?" And I'm like, unfortunately, that's the answer at a certain point. Like, the most
Not like a fire.
bug-in central family has to have an evacuation plan because sooner or later, staying your ground is not survivable.
Yep. And a lot of people, unfortunately, in this case, they didn't get a choice in the matter.
No.
Because, well, we knew the hurricane was going to be severe, but sometimes you just can't leave. Or it gets bad very quickly, and then you are blocked from leaving, and leaving would be more dangerous.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, a hurricane prep episode is definitely in the future sometime. I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone who made any decision that was in the path of this thing because it's inappropriate and because Jesus Christ, what do you say at a moment like this? Raggle Fraggle, no, we talked briefly about Hurricane Helene aftermath. I think we all agreed we're not going to get too much into it at this stage of things because, out of an urge to be understanding to the people who are still actively dealing with this problem, and for the people that have lost people in this storm, it's just not appropriate to talk about this time. As far as everyone at prepper camp, I have not heard of any injuries. I haven't heard of any fatalities. They had a really, really, really ugly night on that mountain that they probably could have avoided had they not gone. But that's as much as I know. When we have more solid information on what happened in that area, and we'll probably readdress that topic. But for today,
maybe in a couple weeks, let everything settle, shake out, die down. Let us get some real information out there. Talk to some people. Make sure everybody's okay. Make sure everybody's fed down there. Then we'll worry about doing an AAR sort of sit down about it.
So I just want to throw it out there. Disaster Coffee. They, a lot of portion of the sales go to disaster relief within the United States. Preparing, funny word, for prepper camp. I bought 20 mugs to sell down at prepper camp. I have 20 mugs sitting in 19 mugs sitting in boxes that need homes. So if you are interested, reach out to me and I'll sell you a mug. Basically, I'm looking at what?
You only have 17 because 2 of them are spoken for.
Well, I got. You guys are gonna get the blems.
You got to send me 2, or Gillian will tar and feather you when she sees you next.
The blems are not included in the 20.
Okay, let me know what I owe you for shipping.
So, but anyway, but so basically, my idea is I haven't set up a price yet on them, but they'll probably be on the Disaster Coffee website. But basically, I'd like to try to get some of my cash back. So I wanted to sell them for $15-20, and then basically to get my money back that what I invested in the cups. But then the rest of it will go to, which is the rest of it will go to disaster relief. I'll donate it to disaster relief. So again, keep an eye on the disastercoffee.com website. And I'll have the cups up there. Hopefully soon I'll have the mugs up. I'm trying to figure out, some couple pictures or whatever, make it look nice, somewhat nice. But yeah, like I said, keep an eye out for that. So
I will allow you to ruthlessly shill those cups. That seems like good stuff. Considering the profits are going to disaster relief and it's desperately needed right now.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, before Nick starts shilling Warhammer 40K stuff.
Hey now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you rather start with the D&D stuff first?
Look, I will shill for Shadow Dark over D&D right now, given what Wizards of the Coast is doing. Support small content creators. Shadow Dark is fantastic. Not affiliated as a sponsor.
But we do actually have a topic other than just us goofing around 10 minutes into the show. So one of our patrons stuck this in our hat. He said, talk about poor boy prepping, which I figured we could start down this road, and if it turns into like multiple shows, then cool, and if not, then it'll just be a fun little experiment. Guy that comments. One of these days I'm going to have to figure out who Guy that comments is, because I'm not totally sure. And Raggle Fraggle, I've never said anything bad about Andrew, other than he should grow his beard out further. That's it. That's like the worst thing I've ever said about him.
I can't.
Why not?
Work.
Oh, piss on them. Being poor is the best form to be a prepper. There's no false sense of security or money bailing you out during SHTF. Also, beans and rice beats any MRE any day. So that was kind of
Accurate.
that was kind of the vein we went into this with. And I
You haven't
figured
eaten
that
enough MREs if you're not tired of them.
I mean, I've eaten a lot of MREs, and there's a reason why there's 2 cases sitting on that shelf that are unopened.
They're
That and
food.
Yeah. They are food when nothing else presents itself. But I thought
Still
before
pizza,
we
right?
started into the free-for-all of like the various poor boy or cost-effective preps people should be looking into, I thought we would have a little bit of a game. So me and Nick played, and I think Andrew did, because we bullied him and shamed him if he wouldn't.
Good.
So the goal post was 2 weeks of food. 2 weeks of food and water. With the understanding that like we were going to obscure tax and shipping to try to keep this fair, because, you know, my wife is texting. I think my wife is texting me in the Facebook chat. Yes, honey, pizza for dinner sounds awesome to me if that's what you're offering. But I think she might, I'm not sure. But if I just got teased with pizza and there's no pizza when this podcast's over, I'm going to be bitterly disappointed. Guy that comments, my CIA handler tells me I can't go public with my online profile. Mine, on the other hand, encourages me to make a fool of myself. So I don't know. Yours doesn't sound like much fun. You should get reassigned. But anyway, back to the rules of this competition. So 2 weeks of food and water. Nick and I agreed on 2,000 calories per day. So we're talking about 28,000 calories. 14 days, yada yada yada. I had originally said a gallon of water a day. Nick, I think you came up with, you wanted to do...
I went with 3. It's up to you. I went with 3 because me personally, I drink between 1.5 gallons and 2 a day, and you need to wash shit.
Yeah, see, I didn't include washing in this because I just assumed you wouldn't use potable water for that. You'd use non-potable source. But the other thing of it is that...
Water's cheap.
We might want to obscure water from this because water is such a dependent on your environment type of problem. Like you and I were talking about it, and like when I was in Iraq, we got cases of 1.5 liter water bottles, and I hammered down 5 of them a day.
Oh yeah,
because I was in the desert.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I figured we just kind of like show and tell our list, and I swear to Christ, I'm gonna laugh my butt off if we all ended up with the same things, which by the way, we all assemble these lists totally independent of each other. So Rochambeau, do y'all want me to go first or y'all want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, why not, man? Go ahead. Take it away. We'll go in video order. So be you, me, Andrew.
Okay. Bear with me a second while I share the screeneries. Okay.
I don't know how to share screens.
So
I'll have to
on
figure
that bottom window where it says share, there's a sub menu that says share screen, and then you can tell what you want it to share. I just have it aimed at.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So these were the ground rules.
I'm new.
2 weeks, 2,000 calories per day. That's 28,000 calories. And I said 14 gallons of water, although you could debate that maybe that should be. Huh?
I thought you did 4. I thought, oh, never mind. You're good.
Okay. So I went to Wally World because most people have Walmarts around them. And kind of the vein I went into was that because I don't know about y'all, but I've been asked by quite a few people, I am brand new to preparedness. What do I need to get right now? So I figured I would tell them, take this shopping list, go to a Walmart, and for each member of your family, buy this. And that will at least get you 2 weeks of food and water put back in your pantry so that you have a good base and then you can build on that. So what I outlined was a 32-ounce bag of Great Value rice. It's $1.77 for 2 pounds. A pound of Great Value red beans, which is $1.87. So a 4-pack of tuna fish, which was $4.34. And then a 6-pack of cans of Armour Vienna sausages, which was $4.68. All that times 5 comes to 27,865 calories. So you've got your rice, your beans, you've got 2 canned meat options, which I can say from experience will hold for a reasonable amount of time if you store them in an unconditioned space like a garage like I do. I mean, obviously, if you have like rodents, they can chew through those bags and those cans, so you're going to need to be a little vigilant around that. But as far as like non-perishable, doesn't require refrigeration, you should be good for a while. That's a good place to start. And then to that, I added 14 of the Great Value brand. It looks like a milk jug, but it's 1-gallon jugs of drinking water for $1.37 each. So my grand total came to $82.48 for 14
Nice.
gallons of water, which I consider like a gallon of water is bare minimum. That's you're gonna need more if you're gonna be working out in the heat. You're gonna need more if you want to wash up. You're gonna need more for various things. But if I'm talking about rationing it, stretch it as far as you can, make it last as long as you can, bare minimum. That's what I
Raggle,
would
you
say.
were wrong. Beans are amazing.
Okay, so Raggle Fraggle, I'm not angry at you, but I will say, red beans and rice have fed more generations of poor ass Cajuns than anything, and none of us starved to death. So
The
Just-
legions of Chinese soldiers would disagree that rice has fed so many of them, even without red beans.
The only thing I would say is I would just be careful of your water. Those gallon jugs are known to break down
Mhm.
over time, so I would definitely be careful of that. Ask me how I know. Yeah. So
ask me how I know. I mean,
no,
I
but
my
yeah,
very
no. I would
first water.
definitely yeah.
Well, yeah, my very first water stock was actually utilizing or repurposing milk jugs because I had a lot of them lying around, and I know from experience they break down and they start pissing leaking all over your garage within 6 months.
Yeah.
It's not depending on where they're stored, but I've had them break down even faster.
Mm-hmm. But I guess kind of my point of view or where I was coming from with this was that if I had to send you out today to go get 2 weeks of food and water for somebody, this is what I'd tell you to get. The minute you get home and this money is spent, and this is $82.48. This is about what it cost me to take my wife and daughter out for like tacos one evening these days. So for the cost of taking a family out to, to go eat out someplace, I mean, hell, this is almost, you could go to Sonic or Wendy's twice and spend this much. So we're not talking about a huge amount of money, but you can get this, and this will at least get you 2 weeks of provisions for a single person, multiplied by the number of people in your family, and you at least have a base. The minute you get all this, I would immediately tell you start looking at sturdier, more reliable methods of water storage, because as Andrew pointed out quite correctly, those milk jugs are not going to hold up very long. They're not meant for long-term storage. But when I was looking at how do I drive this cost down as much as humanly possible to get somebody jumped into the game as quickly and cheaply as possible, so that once they get here, then I can give them some direction on do this to get them on better footing. And when I looked at, because I had originally thought about like pointing them straight at the commercially available water jugs, and I couldn't find jugs unfilled cheaper than you can get these plastic jugs at Walmart pre-filled with drinking water for.
Well, yeah, but look at the weight of the empty jugs compared to each other. The commercial refillable jugs contain like 10 to 15 times more plastic. You know,
Oh, yeah.
the wall stockness is insanely different.
I'm not debating that they're not infinitely better
Oh yeah,
or that there's
but they're
not a
more.
reason
They are
cost
more
more.
expensive.
So here's where I'm coming from. It's the day. It's 4 days before a major hurricane's about to make landfall in South Louisiana.
Yeah, those
Ask me how
water
many
jugs
times
aren't
I've
going to be a problem in 4 days.
Ask me how many times I've lived through that. Someone one day will come to me and say, "Oh, dude, I need hurricane preps. Here's your shopping list. Go get this." And if you haven't
You
drank
won't starve,
through,
but you'll hate me.
if you haven't drank and ate through all of this in 2 weeks, then you need to get some water jugs to pour this water into, and then you need to look at the hot sauce and the coffee and all the other things you're going to want to add to your preps. But if I just need to keep you from starving to death for 2 weeks, go get this. $82.48 plus tax.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stop the share, but that was where I started. Was I need a shopping list to give to a person who needs bare minimum sustainment for 2 weeks for a single person. Go get this and go get out of here.
All right, so this is what I came up with.
I freaking knew you and I were going to have all the same stuff on these lists.
Hey, look, it's basics. It's staples. It's a little bit of meat, a little bit of vegetables, a breakfast option to break it up, and rice because you can stretch everything with rice. All right, I went well over the minimum calories on this one.
Not a bad
And
thing.
why I did that was because you can buy a 25-pound bag of rice for the same price as you can buy 10 pounds of rice. So why would you not? If you have a Sam's Club near you, these places are fantastic. I'm going to tell you to do two things.
Wait, point of order. You got all this at Sam's, right? Or you
100% of this is Sam's Club.
Okay.
You can plug this into your cart there and order it drop shipped to your house today.
Okay, but I wanted to point that out as far as like what our source was, so that in case somebody is brand new and wants to reproduce this, like, you know, we tell them you need to go to a Sam's Club so that you can get 25 pounds of rice for that
Sam's
price.
Club, Costco, any of those. If you don't have one of those near you, find a restaurant supply store. Most of them will sell to you retail for a small markup. So anyway, very similar list. Long grain, white rice, 25-pound bags, about $13. Canned kidney beans, just because that was the cheapest beans. But honestly, you could go to your local grocery store and grab, one of each of 6 different kinds of beans if you want. Pulled apart chunk chicken breast in cans, $11, $12. Yeah, it looks like 12. Sweet corn, because personally I like sweet corn, but you can substitute that for just about any canned vegetables, about the same price, about $7 for 6 cans. Quaker instant oatmeal. How many kids don't eat oatmeal? You're going to need to feed your kids something, at least for breakfast. You get 52 count of that for under $16. Vienna sausages, Libby's, just a different brand based on our geographical location. Cliff bars, because you're going to need some kind of snack for when you're doing whatever. 20 count box, $20. And then the same 1 gallon jug water containers, but this is in a 6-pack, so you get 6 gallons per pack, 7 of those, $10 a piece. Ends up $135.52 for 33,413 calories.
Okay, so you and I really aren't that far off, because if you took 4 of those waters off, just try to compare apples to apples,
and the Cliff bars off, you'd be at the same place and the same calorie count. But,
yeah,
man,
I think about the only thing you did was you chucked in. I think you went in a little heavier on the
on meat. Yeah, so I went with 2 different kinds of meat, just so you could break that up a little bit. Because for one, tuna and rice, it's okay. Chicken and rice is pretty good. But I wanted to have a little different breakfast option, so you weren't eating tuna and rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because that drives people crazy.
Unless they're an Army vet that doesn't have taste buds anymore.
Right, but at that point, you might as well eat MREs and not poop for the full 2 weeks.
Not pooping for 2 weeks is painful. No, thank you.
Yeah, well, that's what MREs get you.
Wow.
Yeah.
The show took a turn.
I mean, I'm sure I could dredge up like a medic or somebody to tell you what happens if you don't
No,
use the bathroom
no.
for long enough.
Nope, you don't have to. It's okay. So let's see if this will come through. Oh, Jesus.
Oh man, she big.
That's your 27-inch monitor, isn't it?
No,
Yep.
it's the smaller one.
Okay, so we're all under $160. That's not bad.
So I don't know. We'll see if this is we'll see if my math is mathing, which I don't think it is because I'm not the smartest person in the world.
I'm gonna take the overlay off so it doesn't cover that.
So yeah, so basically I got I started off with the basically the water. So again, I went to Walmart.com and I got so they have the 40 pack of water at $5.36 a piece. I got 10 of those, so that's like 50 gallons roughly. So then, yeah, so I was kind of thinking diversity as well. So I kind of went the beans and rice, the Texan there, the old man from Texas. He sent me a list of stuff to get a long time ago, and basically I put 2 buckets of that already aside. This is kind of this is basically mimicking some of my buckets that I have, and so I put the two green split peas. 4 black-eyed peas, 4 bags. These are in bags basically. 4 small bags of the red beans, 2 bags of the the 15 bean soup. And then I really like the canned chicken. I have a crap ton of that stuff stocked, and I've got stuff that I'm pretty sure is past expiration date. Can is still good. I've eaten it quite a bit. It tastes just fine. And so they sell them in 4 packs. So I said just do 4 of those, 4 packs, 1 big thing of long grain rice. I think that was 20 pounds of rice, if I remember right. 2 pinto bean bags of pinto beans, and then a bag of a 4-pound bag of small red beans. I'm pretty sure. I think I did my math right. Like I said, I don't. If I didn't, don't yell at me. I'm stupid. Public school, but I
Quick
came in.
math says you're right.
Yeah, I just came in at just under 30,000 calories for 2 weeks at 152 bucks. And I threw in for diversity. I threw in 4 things of the just pasta sauce and 4 boxes of spaghetti. I
Nice.
love spaghetti and pasta sauce and that stuff. You can, and I mean, and you can use that pasta sauce for in the rice, then the rice and beans. You can use it for multiple things. And the biggest thing that I've started doing is look at the price per, I think it's price per ounce.
Mhm.
If I remember right, they'll break it down to like 67 cents per ounce, stuff like that, and that's a pretty interesting way to look at some things. So but yeah, so that's like I said, and I kind of threw in also the other thing too is I put some of these are buckets that I have downstairs in my basement. I've had them now since I moved in, so almost just over a year, almost a year and a half. I've had these buckets sitting down in the basement. I haven't popped them and checked on them at all. I really didn't want to, but I threw in there in the buckets though. I threw in a couple bags of noodles. I threw in because I threw in oxygen absorbers, and I threw in what is it to take away,
Desiccant?
yeah, desiccant, and stuff. So basically I felt comfortable with throwing in some like noodles, some dried noodles and stuff like that, because honestly, I mean, that stuff, it's dried, it's not, I mean, it's the same thing right up there with dehydrated meals in a way, really. The other thing too is you could supplement out if you wanted to. I'm a big fan of at Meyer, they sell them, or not Meyer, sorry, if you're in Michigan, in Indiana and Ohio, maybe you know what Meyer is, but Walmart, it's the Nor meals.
Mhm.
So Nor meals are really, really good. I have a ton of those. They have the shells and the broccoli and cheese and all kinds of stuff. So all you got to do is boil some water and boil water and let it sit for 7 minutes, I believe, and you're good to go. So I believe like if you want to supplement stuff out or even add it, those are usually pretty cheap. So I definitely would highly recommend throwing those in because again, they're already dehydrated or not, not cooked. So all you got to do is I think in the buckets I actually have 5 or so packs of Normeals also added to the list of what I have. So and one of those buckets was enough food for one person for a month. So,
Nice.
so yeah, and I got 2 of them downstairs, I believe, if I remember right. Uh, so yeah, and I plan on putting a couple more up. But yeah, so that's my list.
Nice.
So just to close the loop here, all three of us went straight for rice and beans.
100%.
I did drop in some a bunch of Vienna sausages and tuna fish, just because like I can't speak for everybody else, but like when I was in Iraq, I was getting people to send me like packs of tuna fish all the time, and I would literally like rip the top off, put in a squirt of mayonnaise, and I'd stir it up in a little bit of Tony Chachere's, and I'd eat it right out of the pack. So like to
You know,
me, those are my snacks or whatever you want to call it. Like those are the thing that if I was out working on something and I needed a little pick me up, I'd throw a can of tuna fish or a can of or a full pack of tuna fish, or I'd throw a can of Vienna sausages in my pocket and get that protein in me to prop me back up until I got home to eat. But we all went for some kind of canned meat. The two of you had some vegetables and some grains and everything there that I didn't. But we were all well within that $150 to $150 range. Like if I would have put enough water in to equal what y'all had, I'd have been right at about $100.
mm-hmm.
So
I mean, I
between
also was doing that for the water. The amount of water I put in too was the thought of strictly cooking with, really, and maybe drinking. I mean, I'm hoping if something goes on, I have enough filters that I could lean on if needed. But
You were about 8 gallons more water than I was, though, Andrew.
yeah,
I was right at 42. You were at 50. Phil, you were at 14.
yeah, I said a gallon a day, but that wasn't accounting for what was needed for cooking.
That's absolute bare minimum. Yeah. But, with the rice, you are going to need some for cooking.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, double
double that.
Double
But
the
even
water.
Then,
I'm gonna impress y'all by doing this math in my head. It's not going to work well.
Good luck.
I'm gonna try.
So while Phil's trying to do math in his head,
No,
Grego raised an interesting question. Why no canned meats other than the Vienna sausages and chicken and tuna and whatnot? Well, if you look at lentils, so red beans, various other lentils, you can get most of the proteins you need and some of the fats you need in those. And canned meats are way more expensive than canned beans or dry beans.
I guess the one thing I thought about throwing it on here, but I was just sticking to strictly just food that was you just had to cook some water and go. But I thought about throwing on here canning supplies because I have canned venison in my pantry right now from 2019.
I guarantee it's still good.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the seal holds, it's fine. So it's still sealed. It's still good to go. And so, yeah, that stuff, I mean, I would definitely in these preps and even, in this kind of stuff, I would definitely be throwing in stuff to do canned meat. Even if you take the chicken, I mean, something happens and I don't know, food falls off the shelf and your canned chicken pops open or cracks or something or whatever. I mean, you can take that, throw it in a jar, and you can can it in the jar, and it'll be just fine. So
yeah, it should be, assuming you pressure canned it and it was water packed. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying is as long as it's got water in it and it pressurized stuff like that, then yeah, you should be fine. Yeah,
this topic got me thinking. not just about food, but about say lighting post hurricane stuff like that. And one thing that I picked up a long time ago, believe it or not, Phil brought up D&D earlier. For D&D table ambiance, those 3-hour emergency candles, you can get those suckers on Amazon right now. $10 for a 24 pack of 3-hour emergency, just standard candles.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's 3 hours, 24 candles. That's 3 days worth of light for $10.
So the one thing, and I mean, I know they're expensive for the most part. But I have two LED. They're from DeVos. So if you go to DeVosOutdoor.com, they're one that I bought. They're about $159 a piece. But they are a LED light that it comes with a stand and the light. It's rechargeable. They have a battery pack that you can buy for like $50 that is an extension on it, or you can use it to charge whatever. Or I believe they also do have some solar panels that you can throw on there to charge it up as well. But I use those for camping since I bought them, and I hands down I would recommend those to every single person that if they're looking for lighting, these things are hands down the best. I think the best that you can get besides a generator and maybe a spotlight of some kind. Or if you want a portable lantern, okay, that's one thing. But these things, the space that they light up is insane.
What's the battery life on a charge?
Let me see let me see their spec sheet. I charged them when I first bought them, and I've used them multiple times now, and I've yet to charge them up. I've used them probably a dozen times or so. So let's see here.
While you're trying to figure that out, guy that comments said, "Can candles bring water to a boil?" You're gonna use
Eventually.
a lot. You're gonna use a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how much water. Eventually is probably the right way.
So, Andrew, I don't want to cause you to lose your train of thought.
No, you're fine. I got it. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, like, in terms of like what now, again, in the vein we're going in, we're thinking like ostensibly 2-week long emergency, because that's where we started. That's a reasonable level to build up to very quickly, and that's the time period that the food and water we outlined was supposed to last. Which, by the way, when I redid mine to double the water, it came out to like $101.
Okay, so we're all within like $40 of each other.
Yeah,
$50.
So honestly, like my thought as far as like lighting, I would say don't overcomplicate things. Go buy a cheap ass flashlight and buy a pack of batteries, or 2 packs of batteries if you're feeling really extra. That will last you 2 weeks. Headlights, yep, you can get them. You can get them at Walmart. They're freaking dirt cheap.
$14.
Buy a bunch of them. But as far as like
that have that, yeah.
But as far as like boiling water, I'm going to tell you that probably
Coleman camp stove.
Yes, but it depends. If you're talking about boiling enough rice for a single person,
jet boil.
I would, jet boil, or like I have an MSR, a pocket rocket that screws onto the top of the little red gas cans. But which, by the way, those little red gas cans that are the MSR fuel, you kind of need those if you're in a super cold environment.
You do.
But because the mixture of the isobutane and everything is appropriate for like, I think everything down to like negative whatever. But if you're not in a really cold environment,
negative 25, I think.
But if you're not in a really cold environment, you live down here where I do, where it never sees negative 25, you can get the cheap, big Coleman brand fuel cans, and the MSR Pocket Rocket screws right onto the top of them, and it's a can twice as big for half the money. And I've used that 40, 50 degrees. It's never sputtered, never given me any trouble. It's a dramatically cheaper fuel option that works with something like an MSR Pocket Rocket too, if you're trying to save some money and you don't need the extreme cold weather performance. And the only thing of it is that something that size with an appropriately small pot will work for a single person. But if you're in my situation cooking for me, my wife, and my daughter, yes, something like the old school, like green Coleman camp stove.
I have two.
And yeah, something like that is going to be a very cost efficient option. You can probably find them at garage sales. Honestly, they're so friggin' ubiquitous, and they're bulletproof.
I actually have inherited both of mine. They stick around so long. No,
I did not inherit mine, but mine's down there on the floor behind me, and yeah, I've literally cooked for like 12, 14, 15 people off of those two burners.
I mean, if you want to talk dollar per meal cooked, you really can't beat those Coleman propane stoves, especially if you have a dual fuel or a tri-fuel generator that takes propane. You're going to have propane anyway for your grill, probably at home, your big grill. You're going to have propane maybe for your generator, but you can get an adapter that'll tie right on to your big propane tank, your 40-pound or 20-pound propane tank, and that'll fuel your Coleman grill for months.
That's about $15-$20 on Amazon. Absolutely money well spent. Because the little green 1-pound cylinders are like, last I checked, they were about $8 a whack, and that gets expensive fast.
Yeah, I have the Jetboil Genesis base camp, and that thing is solid. I've been super happy with it. I have an adapter line that actually goes to a 5-gallon propane tank.
Nice.
And I've been using that throughout the summer, and it's been doing pretty good for me. I do have in the back of my drawer system, I do have 3 because I did loan one out. I usually have 4 of the 1-gallon propane.
Oh, the little green jobbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the green ones. I usually have I had 4 of those sitting back there just in case that the 5-gallon ran out. I kick over to that because I still have the line and everything. It goes right to those. So, but yeah, I mean, whether it's Coleman, whether it's Jetboil, whatever it is, obviously have a decent way of cooking or boiling your stuff versus I need to make a fire. I don't know how many times I went camping before I had some of this stuff where I had more. It was more of the smaller pot, and it was like, yeah, I don't really feel like cooking anything because I don't want to boil water. I don't want to make a fire to boil water. Or cook over or anything like that. So having something quick that you can set up is nice. So,
well, the speed at which those Jetboils and MSR pocket rockets, and everybody makes a knockoff version of those nowadays. They all work about the same, but you get some efficiency gains with the better ones. But the speed at which they'll boil water for like a mountain house or whatever is so much faster than even like those little solo stoves.
Yeah,
the twig fueled stoves. I've got one of those too, as well as I think I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's the green version of the MSR.
Yeah,
but it takes about half the time, and if you're crunched for time, it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing of it is that the reason why I have a solo stove in my pack and I have an MSR pocket rocket is because, like, Andrew and I talk about this way back when, but I point out to him, I'm like, down here in my local environment, I have 2 things that work against me for preparedness. One is the fact that there's a lot of saltwater intrusion, so even bodies of water you would think are fresh and drinkable are brackish. And the other problem I have is half of it's under freaking water most of the time. So, yes, I might luck out and find some good tinder or some good wood, but more than likely I'm going to find something that's either wet or rotten, or wet and rotten, or made of asbestos. So it's just like, having the ability to screw that pocket rocket down onto the top of the gas can and make fire and make stuff work quickly, that's worth spending a couple of bucks on the fuel.
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing is I have a knockoff pocket rocket that I think I got from Amazon for like $4 or $5, and it definitely shows that. I mean, I've had it for a long ass time, but it's starting to show. I think the part that actually does the spark, it broke. The super glue broke on it, and so now it doesn't do a spark anymore. So I'm probably gonna just end up buying an MSR. But I'm getting ready to go to Colorado for elk hunt, and I'm looking at, like, I'll probably take my Jetboil for at camp, but for hiking and going through the mountains and stuff like that, I mean, I'll probably end up taking that pocket rocket. And I have what's nice about the fuel canisters, if you get the smaller ones or even the mid-size ones, I think Walmart sells it too in the camping section, but you can get the it's an all-in-one. Like it's 2 pots basically. That the smaller pot fits into the bigger one that has it's around like, and then it goes into a like a fabric mesh carrying.
Mhm.
That right there, that holds
That's what I use.
that holds 2 of the fuel. So 2 of the fuel canisters for the stove fit into that into the inside pot. So you carry that, you have your fuel. Now you just have to pull out the pocket rocket, and you're good to go. I mean, as long as you have water and stuff, you're solid. So that's the way to go.
Yeah, for any kind of backpacking, get home bag, bug out bag, for speed and efficiency of weight, you can't beat those pocket rockets.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing nobody's talked about yet as we talk about poor boy prepping is medical, which a lot of
Medical
times,
expensive.
but it doesn't have to be.
22
Mhm.
pistol.
It doesn't have. Is that to shoot yourself if something goes wrong?
If someone gets hurt, there's your meat, your protein right there. If they get hurt,
Ah,
so
cannibalism does not have to be the first resort.
kill 'em and eat 'em.
Andrew went there right off the top. If the stream gets booted off YouTube, thank you, by the way.
Whoops.
It'll be fine.
So what I was going to say was like medical can get histrionically expensive, but it doesn't have to be. So a lot of times when I start talking to people in the preparedness community about medical, they immediately go to like, the tourniquets and the chest seals and the IFAKs and all that stuff, right? But what are the 3 most commonly things that fall into the medical corral that you think you're going to need? 3 most commonly used items.
Band-Aids,
Burn cream.
burn cream, tweezers.
Yep.
Not what I was going to go for. I was going to say
Well,
Band-Aids, burn cream, and
Burn
alcohol.
Blisters. Yeah.
Alcohol. I mean, look, it burns like a bastard, but if you need to decontaminate something or if you have a wound that you need cleaned out, alcohol is brutal, but it will do the job. So
Yeah,
you
ice
can
packs.
get, yeah. Now, if we want to expand out just a little bit further than that, ice packs, 4x4s, and cohesive bandage can be found at most drugstores. So what I'm suggesting is that in the vein of poor boy prepping, don't think you have to run to your nearest whatever and go buy 15 cat tourniquets. Start by going down to your local Walgreens or CVS or whatever your local drugstore is. Everclear is not necessarily the best prep for all things.
Look,
Everclear
it is the cheapest way to get drunk.
Well, it is the cheapest way to get drunk, but Everclear, you can use it. It's a multi-purpose thing. So
It is.
you can
It's
use
an
it
excellent fuel.
for barter. You can use it for fuel. You can use it to get drunk. You can use it to sanitize. So I would
sanitize within an inch of your life. That's for sure.
Yep. But yeah, ice packs, heat packs. If you have a person who's fighting hypothermia, you need to put some of those up against their body to warm them up. But you can find all that stuff in reasonably well-stocked drugstores. Don't overcomplicate this. Just walk up and down the aisles and look at your wound care options that you can get at a local drugstore. Pick up ibuprofen and Tylenol. Because I'm going to tell you that fever control is not super complicated. But again, if I find a person that says, I've got 15 IFAKs and 45 cat tourniquets, but you don't have a huge bottle of Tylenol sitting on your shelf someplace for when somebody pops a fever, I look at you funny because you missed step 1, which was start at the simple end of things. And then we start talking about the stuff that you put on Instagram to impress your friends.
Well, the thing is, though, is people think, when you think medical, people think worst case disaster scenario of car accident, chainsaw, whatever it be. A lot of people think about that. But yeah, start simple. Band-Aids. You're gonna moleskin. That's our one that came to mind too.
Yes.
Moleskin and Coban. I mean, you can do, and even if you said, I'm going to skip the tourniquet for right now, and you bought an Israeli bandage, with the Israeli bandage and everything, I mean, there's certain ways that you can wrap a wound to eventually stop the bleeding. If it's something pretty bad, either that or they're just going to cease to exist, and that's how you also stop the bleeding is when they bleed out. So, but yeah, think simple. Band-Aids. I think I got in my med kit. I think I bought 4 boxes of an assortment of sizes for Band-Aids, and there were like 100 each. So,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Here's
Just,
something most people
just
are not going
beware.
to call. Go ahead.
The adhesive on those does go bad, does
Mhm.
dry out. So over time, you will need to
Here's something
rotate.
most
That's
people are
why
not.
I put more in there.
Yeah.
One thing most people will not consider medical, but I will die on the hill every time that it is work gloves.
Yes.
Because if you can prevent an injury, you don't need the medical stuff. And this is why, like, the day after Hurricane Ida, when my wife and I were starting to like clear the front yard, because I mean, y'all have seen the pictures. Like, you couldn't see the front of my house from the street. That's how many trees fell. But I told my wife from the word go, I'm like, no one is allowed in the yard without closed-toed shoes, long pants, and work gloves. Because I understood, and so did my wife, understood very quickly that if one of us gets a puncture or a skin infection or something starts going bad, hospitals are the last place on earth you want to be right now, given everything that's going on. So let's pound ounce of prevention, pound of cure type of thing. Yes, triple antibiotic ointment. I recommend that rather than the alcohol if you have small children, because
It
let's
does
just say
feel
that,
better.
oh, it feels a hell of a lot better. I have a whole box of individually wrapped alcohol prep pads under my sink, and you can buy them off of Amazon really, really cheap, like a pretty good sized box of them. I don't know how many
They
hundred
last
are in there.
forever.
But here's the thing of it. I throw a handful in every one of my kits, and I throw a handful into the truck. They're individually wrapped in little foil packs. They're great for a lot of things. But alcohol in an open wound, um, let's just say that someone's going to teach you new vocabulary words if you use that on them. I use it on myself because I just don't care. But if you have to hold down a small child and scrub out a wound with an alcohol prep pad, you will really rather you had some antibiotic cream.
The other one that I would say, I mean, going off of gloves, is I would have a couple different pairs of gloves. So I have,
Yeah.
I think I have a couple like, shoot, mechanics. I have a couple pair
Yeah.
of
The
mechanics
fast
gloves.
fits.
Yeah, the fast fit stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for fire, when I'm around a fire, Tractor Supply, if you got one around you, uh, or even I mean even a farm store or whatever. I think Meyer or sorry, Walmart might have them too. But anyway, it's the old cowhide gloves. Get those. I when I'm dealing with fire, I've reached into fire. I've adjusted, basically adjusted wood. I've picked up wood out of fire. I've picked up pots out of the fire, rocks out of the fire. I mean, yeah, obviously they do get hot, and they will get hot and they will burn you over within a few seconds. I mean, but at least those are thick. Those are thick enough to where you can deal with some fire. You can deal with hot stuff that's hot without the stuff melting to your hand. Like the
There's a
mechanics
reason
gloves,
Walter's gloves are made of leather.
yeah. So I would definitely I have a couple pairs of those in my drawer system, and that's one of the first things I grab when I'm dealing with, and they're thick enough to where hopefully if you're doing anything with an axe, if you chop down hard enough, your finger is going to come off. But if you're doing anything with cutting and stuff like that, something thick like that will help with that kind of stuff.
So,
Yep.
as we've got like 5 minutes left or so, like, is there anything else we're just being morons and overlooking? Like, we've got personal protection, we've got medical, we started off with food and water, and we're looking for that low hanging fruit that if a person came to you and said, "Hey, dude, I need preparedness right now,"
Maverick
something that,
88.
damn, that's hard to argue with.
I mean, look, is it gonna be as nice as Andrew's 1301 Mod 2? No, but it works.
What's the price on a map? What's the price on a Mossberg
We'll
Maverick
find out.
88, which is a 12 gauge for those of you out there who don't know?
If I could type.
I think they're
Let's
like,
see.
$300.
They want me to verify my age.
Oh, Jesus
293.
Christ. So
293 for MSRP.
So call it $400 with
I mean, you could probably
a
get
chunk
them on
of
sale.
ammo and
250 probably.
well, call it 400 with tax and some ammo.
And a sling.
Trying to think of if there's anyone out there, if there's anything in the handgun realm that beats that, except for a High Point.
Used Glock 17.
I mean,
You'd
does
have
it
to
have
get a
semi-auto or
police trade-in?
You'd have to get a screaming deal on a friggin' even a police trade-in Glock to come in under that with some ammo.
Wasn't one of the patrons sending one out that was like 225 or something?
Hmm. Okay, so maybe a pawn shop special Glock.
Yeah, I mean maybe something used, but brand new. You're not really going to beat the versatility or the value over a Maverick 88. I mean, yeah, maybe you find a pawn shop 870 or Mossberg 500 or something like that, but
well, what are
we're
you?
not going to go Turkish shotguns.
I mean, the thing is though, is if you have, are you saying pump, semi-auto, or just a shot like a?
No, I'm just saying for a firearm in general, for a versatile self-defense firearm in general. I mean, you're going to have a
Poor boy
hard time
prepping.
beating.
I mean,
you have
if
a
you,
hard
if
time
you want to
beating
do
it.
if you want to do a poor boy prepping, I believe it is called. Oh, I think it's McCoy. I think it was like a Henry McCoy, or not Henry McCoy. Jesus, I think it's a McCoy 12 gauge. I could be wrong. I have one in my safe. I haven't taken out in years. It's a single shot 12 gauge, $100 at Walmart.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Hatfield.
Yeah.
So it's a single barrel crack barrel, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Break
a
barrel, single shot.
it kicks like a freaking mule.
Well, yeah, it would.
But
28-inch barrel.
yeah,
Jesus. I mean, it would do. But you
Yeah.
know, the functionality difference between a break barrel single shot and a pump action is significant. I mean, it's worth a couple $100. But yeah, I guess if you had to.
I mean, if you're prepping on a budget and if you have $200 to spend and you got to get ammo with that, I would say
It's
you buy
better than nothing.
$100 it's a Hatfield 12 gauge shotgun. You buy the $100 shotgun, and then you buy an assortment of slugs and birdshot and buckshot and stuff like that. And then there was another company, I cannot think of the name off the top of my head. It's been over a year since I've heard about them. But there's another company that they actually sold a insert that you could actually insert it's basically a insert that goes inside of that the 12 gauge of the breech there when you crack it open, and it downsizes it to a 22, a 9mm, and I think
Oh, yeah, I remember
or
hearing about those.
or something like that. Yeah, and so you could always get those, and then you have, I mean, obviously, it's not going to it's not going to be 100%, but if you were prepping on a budget, one shotgun and break action, which is a little slower, but one shotgun and some utility or a couple of things, and you could have a multi tool in
Mhm.
sorts. So,
And if $100 sounds like it's cutting into your drinking budget too much and you're a tiny little bit industrious, I have it on good faith that you can make a slamfire shotgun out of some water pipe from a hardware store.
Black gas pipe.
Black gas pipe. That's it.
There is a specific size of black gas pipe that I guarantee your local hardware store has that will fit a 12 gauge round in perfectly, and it is capable of handling that pressure.
So I don't have it handy, but if anyone reaches out to me on social media because you're a fellow miscreant and psychopath and you like to read old obsolete field manuals, I cannot confirm, but I may or may not have the FM number you can Google that will tell you how to make improvised firearms in Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have that. I don't have that FM handy, but I do remember that it is publicly available.
That is your taxpayer funded manual for how to make homemade expedient firearms, courtesy of the U.S. Army.
Yes. Well, I mean, you know, our special forces taught most of the third world how to make them. So,
oops.
I was going to say they were doing it to fight, you know, foreign governments, and it seemed to work out well for them. At least it works well enough to snipe somebody and then take their stuff if they got nicer stuff than you have.
I mean, traditionally, that's how it's worked. I mean, look at the French underground fighters in World War II. we were dropping 45 caliber unrifled Liberator single shot pistols. And the idea was you walked up behind a German sentry, took advantage of his distraction, and walk off with a very nice Mauser.
Yes. Or even better, squirt gun.
Mm-hmm.
And probably a cool
Upgrades.
uniform and some grenades and all kinds of fun
depending
stuff.
on the era.
All right, so I guess let's start to round this up. Is there anything we left out that our burgeoning but financially challenged preppers should look into immediately and quickly to get them spun up? I feel like we kind of covered a decent cross section.
You know, there's one thing we didn't think about. Even if you're not in a group, a two-way radio of some kind, preferably one that can get NOAA signals.
Okay.
Because at the very least, then you can get weather updates and news, because they'll give you emergency news broadcasts off those little handhelds.
So a Baofeng UB5R is like $20 to $25 off of Amazon, but if you don't want to be a radio nerd and talk to strange men outside of Grindr, and what you want is intel and NOAA weather frequencies, you can usually get, again, in most most camping sections, you can usually find like the little bitty emergency radios that are receive only. Like yeah,
that'd be fantastic. Just for the weather reports, so you know if there's more storm coming.
So I've actually got one that's sitting in my sitting in the camping box over here, and I totally forgotten about it. And while we were at the campsite last weekend, my daughter found it and turned it on and was like dialing in different channels and everything and flipping it to the NOAA stations, and it was funny because at some point she was like, wow, these are so easy to use. And I mean, she was like, if you try to listen to the radio on your phone, you got to have an app and you got to do this and you got to do that. And this is cool. And I was like, welcome to the miracles of RF floating around in the air, in the atmosphere, honey. And then I tried,
cool it got boring.
Yeah. And then I showed her how like my GMRS radios can also tune into all those FM stations and the NOAA channels. And that held her interest for a couple of seconds, and then she got bored with it.
Well, yeah.
But no, it's a good point. I kind of feel like we gave everybody enough to chew on, though, that, again, like for the person who, because I know from my perspective, and I know what a lot of people I've talked to butted heads against, it's this idea that like, well, to prep, you have to have all this money, and I got to buy all this stuff, and it cost, and like, I don't know about y'all, but I know that when I first started down the preparedness road, like I made literally half what I do now. And I was supporting, yeah. And I was supporting a wife and a kid and paying a mortgage. So like, it's one of those situations where it's like, I sympathize with that. I know how crippling that can be and how close to giving up you can feel like it's going to take me forever to get there. But that's why I wanted to do this episode. I wanted to kind of give somebody food for thought and say, you can start this at a reasonable level in a reasonable time frame for reasonable money, and then you just build on it over time. Because I feel like once you give a person that 2 weeks base layer, the shotgun, the CVS bag full of friggin' stuff they got from the drugstore for their medical, the 2 weeks of food and water, it's not MREs. It's not tourniquets. It's not cool guy stuff. It's not an AR-15 and the chest rig and the body armor and all that silly shit. It's
body
enough to
fun.
It's fun, but this is enough to get you into the game so that you're going to last 2 weeks longer than you would have otherwise. And then from there, we can layer you up and build on it until you're wherever you want to be.
And you know what? Unlike the body armor, you're always going to eat. So even if you don't need the food for a blizzard or a hurricane or a tornado or a wildfire or whatever, all right, you lost your job. Great. You got 2 weeks of groceries you don't have to buy. That buys you 2 weeks.
Yep. And can I just say that having a substantial food reserve does lend a not insignificant amount of comfort when you're facing down things like job loss, or when you're facing down things like, oh, I might be a couple of weeks or a month without a paycheck. Because I just tell myself, I'm like, you know what? I can tell you the one thing we're not going to run at for the next 6 months. It's food.
Yep.
And that gives you so much peace.
And you know what? Don't aim for 6 months right out the gate.
Mm-mm.
3 days. Start with 3 days. Don't even aim for 2 weeks.
I would
3
tell
days is easy.
I would tell people at this point aim for 2 weeks because we've already shown them 2 weeks.
Well, yeah.
2 weeks is easy. 2 weeks is
Yeah, but
doable.
if you're running a budget where you've only got, say you're running really tight and you've only got $20 extra at the end of a week, and you can't drop the $100 in one crack, $10 every grocery store trip. Pick up a couple extra cans of food. Make it easy. Make it affordable for yourself. Do not go into debt for this.
God no. Nope. We're gonna shoehorn in that financial preparedness episode when Andrew's not here, because every time I do, I can hear him trying to use the keyboard to slit his wrists as I talk about money and finances and debt for like an hour.
Hey, if you don't have your finances in order, something is going to come out of the woodwork and hit you in the head.
Yes, but
every time.
But we will save that for another time.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, you got anything you want to slide in here before we sign out for the end?
No, seems like covered everything pretty good.
Okay, so in closing, go check out disastercoffee.com so that when Andrew gets those coffee cups there, y'all can purchase one or a few if you would like. Andrew, I expect two sideline for me and my wife. I'll pay for the shipping. I'll pay for the cups if you want, but I want 2 cups. He is totally blowing me off right now.
Yeah.
All right, and for the 7 of you who are still watching this stream, so there's a funny little thing that we implemented recently, and StreamYard gave us the ability to like preset an outro video, and I have preset it, but since this is the first night we're running it, I don't know if it's actually going to fire when I hit this button. So when I hit this button, if it goes straight to a black screen, you're not going to hear me cursing into the microphone because StreamYard screwed me over. But if you do see the outro video, it'll be with a sigh of relief, and we'll talk to y'all another week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See it.